So I'm Mike DeCecco. Thanks for coming today. We normally start off by asking if there's any new members here in the room today. I'm seeing a sea of familiar faces, so I don't think we have any. And how about on Zoom? Do we have any new members who joined us today for the first time? Or some guests? Just raise your hand or chime in or something if you can.
Yeah,
no?
I can see him.
Yes, he does.
Okay. Thank you, everybody online, for joining us too. Let's see. So we normally also ask if there's any announcements. Does anyone in the room have some announcements? Yes, and speak up loud so everyone can hear you online too.
My name is Tim McPherson. I've been a member of CAP since '77. I've been collecting over 50 years. What I'm offering is anybody that's having problems with their machines, don't know how to fix it, or needs help figuring out something, I'm offering my knowledge and services. I'm not doing this for any income, just passing on knowledge, my years of knowledge. I'm not interfering with anybody's that does this for a living or does it for income. I'm just offering people help that don't know how to fix something or they need some advice or something. I got my cards here, come and grab a couple. And anybody that needs any help with anything, just ask me, call me, or email me, and I probably can fix it or tell you how to fix it. I've fixed almost everything. I fixed hundreds and hundreds of machines.
Awesome.
Okay.
Thank you, Tim.
Okay.
Would it help? Is your card big enough that we could hold one up for the people online to see?
I don't know. They're the same size as
It's a business card, right? I don't have my glasses on, so there's no way I can see that from
Well,
here.
you can't see from there. I got a picture of my Class M on the back.
The other thing too, if you prefer, you could also put a little ad in the
Yeah.
APN in the newsletter,
Yeah,
so
just
that
offering
everybody will
my-
see
yeah.
it. So let's just hold. Can you see that? So it's Tim McPherson, and you'll find him in the directory. And I'm holding up his card, and I like the back of it. Isn't that cool? It normally has a picture on the back of the card. Purple Cat Phonographs. Thank you, Tim. Anyone else have any announcements?
Yes,
Ken? Okay, speak up nice and loud.
I got a lot of stuff in my house and to get away of. I got some stuff I had to get away of. I got these 3 machines here. I leave them on the table when anybody can look. I mean, I'm not asking a lot for them. I just basically want to get away with some stuff. So you can take them up there, you can put them on the table, you can let people come by for coffee, they can look at them.
True stuff.
I don't know, I think when people come for coffee, you have to listen. Oh.
So this is a Phonola,
Yeah.
1907.
I'm missing a radio of it. A radio or
Okay.
something. But it worked.
And this is an Edison? I
Yeah, that
assume?
worked. The diamond disc, you can share everything with me. In a radio, I don't know what it is.
Here's a neat radio. Does the radio work?
No, they get heavy. They got 2 chassis.
Okay.
They got 102 with them.
That's the way they made them then, right?
No, it ain't 50.
I'll leave the pictures up here. Does any? Thank you. Does anyone else have any announcements they'd like to make?
Hello?
In the
Hello?
room? Okay,
Hello?
yes, so,
Someone online, yeah.
Hello?
Sure. Yes, we can hear you. Would you
Okay,
like to say something?
I would, thank you. As
Thank
it
you.
turns out, I will be in Toronto at the time of the spring meeting in downtown Toronto at the York the Royal York Hotel. And I'm wondering if there's anybody who would be able to provide advice on transit, because frankly, I find the Toronto Transit website bewildering on how to get from the hotel area out to where the meeting is. It would be nice to attend in person.
Hold on a moment, please.
Mhm.
Alexander, I know you get around on public transit. Would you be able to help?
Yeah, sure, but can you, like, through email or through what?
Yeah, I usually pick up Alex
Oh, do
Sander
you?
at
Okay.
Victoria Park, so I could meet Lance at Victoria Park Station also. We could all come together.
Perfect.
I've just got to text you my name and phone number. So I'll do that through the chat, okay?
Thank you.
Lance? Okay, at some point, I'll try and do it now, but I'm kind of running out of a
And
few
Mark's
things.
also in the APN. You'll see him listed on the second page.
As editor.
Great, thanks for letting us know. Anyone
Thank you.
else online? You have an announcement, something you'd like to say? Don, are you putting your hand up or just adjusting your camera? Nope, okay. Great. Anyone else like to say something? Okay. I have just a short announcement today. Mike Bryan's unable to be here, and fortunately we have Don Kelly filling in as our auctioneer today. So you saw Don last week. Yes. Peter's surprised in the room. Yes.
Who is this guy?
Yeah. So you saw Don at the last meeting, did a fabulous presentation, always entertaining. And Don, you've done some auctioneering for us in the past.
Yes.
And like the way you move things along quickly. So
Yeah,
you'll do a great
so.
job again. So for those of you online, you might find the flow a little different. You might be used to Mike doing it. So just, I guess, adapt to the way things are. And we have an awful lot of things on the table today. I wish I could. Can we pan the microphone?
We'll do it during the break. During the break, I'll
So
scan.
on the break, Mark's going to go around, probably with a cell phone or something, and show those of you online what's on the tables. And again, we'll try to give you a sneak peek of what's there and try to explain things as we go. There's a lot of records and a few machines, and we'll have to get through them. The next meeting is on April 7th. Should be an interesting one. It's about 6 weeks from now. And in the past, Don Colville started a segment, he called it Just Saying. And it's really just a discussion topic. And I asked a few people, I said, can you give me a topic to talk about this meeting? Something that would affect our hobby. And they were, I don't know what to say. So, okay, well, I came up with one myself. So what I often see online as a discussion topic is, it sort of goes like this. You get someone who just gets a gramophone at a flea market or antique store or something like that. And the question is, what kinds of records can I play on it? Or they'll post a picture of it, and let's say they have a 1920s Victrola, and there's a 1940s record on it. Then everybody's chiming in, you can't play those newer records, those electric records on an old machine like that. And then other people will jump in and say, you're crazy, and it's almost like they're having war back and forth. And so the question I guess I'd like to propose is, I think probably most people will agree that you shouldn't play a 1950s 78 on a gramophone because the material was softer. They started going to a vinyl shellac mix, and they were louder records too, so they'll wear out quickly. But the question is, if you have an acoustic phonograph, is it okay to play electrically recorded records, let's say up to the late 1940s or something like that, or would you stick strictly with acoustic records? So let's get feedback from people in the room first, and then I'll ask those of you online if you want to join in. Anybody want to say, give a comment?
Use a fine needle. You don't do it like on time.
So you say if a fine needle is used, like a soft needle, should be okay.
Soft, or actually I've seen the kind that almost look with a sewing needle type tip, about a 1/4 inch.
Like a bend in it?
Punch steel.
Oh, the
Yeah,
tungstone?
you know, this thick thing, but then the needle, 3/8 of an inch is literally like a sewing needle.
Right.
So
Okay.
I think you're fine with those.
Now, I'm going to direct this question to Angelo. A common comment that people make is, if you play an electrically recorded record on an acoustic machine, it's going to damage the mica diaphragm. It's going to blow it out. Angelo, you've done a lot of repairs. Have you seen any of that?
I never encountered that. I don't think that that's the case. What the big thing is if someone tries to put a thing through for that reason, they didn't learn that, the gun will fly off because it's so much slower.
But that's a vinyl record.
Yeah, he's talking about vinyl.
Yeah, I'm not talking about a vinyl record. I'm just saying, let's say a record recorded in 1930, that's electric.
My experience is that if I have a problem playing through a record, I always revert to try and find the older one. If I still have a problem with the older one, then I know I've got another.
Then you know you've got a problem.
Again, things most people don't understand the reason for changing especially the single spring motors.
Right.
It's touch and go through, to play through a good record with everything perfect. So
Yes.
if there's any hindrance to it, it's a problem.
So I hope all of you online could hear Angelo's answer. I guess in a nutshell, to sum it up, use a new needle, like a soft needle, and you'll first try it with, say, an electric record, a machine if you're testing, and if it doesn't work good, then you go with an acoustic record. Okay, thank you.
Hello?
Brian, speak up loud so the people online can hear us too. I know you're great at projecting your voice.
Yeah, I could try. Yeah, I get this question a lot. I see it on Facebook groups
Yes.
a lot. And I don't necessarily get the question so much as I tell people and let them decide for themselves, but I've got my own kind of opinion on it, and I know there's some people on Facebook, specific people that are very adamant, like do not play an acoustic record on that machine, because they'll see an orthophonic with an old Victor, like don't play that, or they'll see an orthophonic on a Victor, older one, so do not play that. They're very adamant about it. I'm not a record collector, so people can, chastise me, but I say you've got lots of records. They're old. They've been played who knows how, well. They've been, maybe abused and used, probably with needles that have been, played 10, 20 times, not, every play. I say, unless it's a pristine record that you really, really like, it's a collectible piece. I mean, most records aren't worth much. I say, have at it. Like if you want a really more modern record and it's in good shape, and you want to play on an older machine, in my opinion, just make sure you're using a new needle. I basically just leave it at that. I don't really see how it would really damage the mica using an electrically made record on an older machine, unless you play it really loud all the time, and it's an older, not rebuilt reproducer that's
Right.
cracking. I mean, a rebuilt reproducer should last, and if not, they're not hard to redo. That's just my 2 cents worth on it. The other thing, because I even was thinking about this the other day, because it comes up all the time, and I have customers that want records. They want new records, and like, well, they've got an older machine. Well, they want, some, newer person, new artist that's, electrically produced record with the phonic. Thing that I was thinking lately is at some point, I mean, if you take a step back, cassettes went to CDs, CDs go to digital. There's always a transition. At some point, there must have been a transition.
And now we're going back to vinyl.
Yeah, exactly. But at some point, there was a transition between the acoustically made ones and the digitally. I can't see that everybody went out and ran out and bought an acoustic machine. At that time, I would assume, would people not just say, oh, I want this newer electrically produced record? Are they going to say, oh, I don't have a machine to play it on? Would they say no? I don't know. And those are brand new records. Obviously, we're not from that time, but that's kind of my question: is what would they have done back then?
That's a good point. And then actually, next year is going to be 100th anniversary of the recording industry going electric. And I know both Victor and Columbia, when they made the switch over, they did not change the labels. They intentionally used old stock labels. People couldn't tell that it was a new recording process unless you looked at the wax and you saw W or BE. So my take on it is, in 1925, the manufacturers didn't suddenly expect everybody to throw out all their phonographs and buy new orthophonic ones. But I've seen that discussion online. And to be fair to our people on Zoom, would anyone like to chime in on that discussion?
Hello?
Yes, we can hear you. Go ahead, Lance.
Okay. I have a sizable collection of broken records that I've hauled out of boxes and glued back together and play them. And so they actually, if you do it properly, you get quite good results, but they never go near my electric machines because I don't want to risk damaging the styluses. So I have things from, the 20s to the late 50s on that. And they only get played on an acoustic machine. And I usually treat them with palm wax, because it reduces the friction on it. And they're not going to be great records anyways. And I play them on acoustic machines all the time. One of them is a Beniamino Gili record That is one of my favorite records, and it gets played all the time on an acoustic machine, sometimes a couple of times a day. And to be honest, I don't notice any deterioration in fidelity. I notice that electric records will sometimes overdrive the horn,
Right.
so that you're getting odd resonances out of the horn. I don't think I've had a problem with reproducers. I mean, obviously it's not ideal, but I think people are somewhat exaggerating the hazards. And there was a 1936 study that the BBC did on using reusing tungstone type needles, and they found that repeated play of records with steel needles, the tungstone type needles, did not result in the type of damage that people predicted, and that study can be found online. So it's, and with fiber needles, I don't think that there's that much of a hazard.
Okay. Thank you, Lance. Anybody else want to chime in? Don, did you want to say something?
Yeah, I've restored several 1929 era transcription, broadcast transcription machines, and found that it depended on the material used on the blanks of the transcribed recordings can be damaged by a steel needle. Yeah.
Okay.
But normally over exaggerated the concern.
Yeah. Anyone else? Okay. Oh, Don, you'd like to say something?
Just back again, just by word of advice from a very old collector, don't play broken records. Okay, just a rule of thumb. You can patch them up and tape them, whatever the hell you want to do with them, still broken. So it's not going to sound very good. So that's my advice.
Yeah.
Look for a better copy of the hell out.
Okay, thank you. So thank you all for joining in. And again, as I read the comments online, I thought it was kind of over exaggerated, but I thought it'd be a good discussion to bring up today. And I need more suggestions for future meetings. If you want to tell me any similar questions, something you think would be a good discussion topic, please let me know one way or another, and we'll certainly bring it up. So now we're going to move on to our presentation today. We have Tom Ray, and I see Tom in the top left corner. And Tom, thank you for taking the time out to speak to us today about this. I know you told us a while ago that you've been making horns, exponential horns, and sounds like you're definitely the expert on it. So I'm going to turn the floor over to you and look forward to your presentation. Thank you.
Okay. Okay, so I sort of thought, I don't know, I guess this could wait till the end, but I'd sent Mark a link to a video from my YouTube channel of a tune playing, but that can wait till the end if you want to, if Mark can play that. Is that possible?
Oh, yeah, yeah.
Okay. Okay, so, yeah, so you're going to put up the photos, right, Mark?
Yep. Do you want me to start with number one?
Yeah, please. Yeah. So there's a lot of photos, and a lot of them will go by pretty quickly, but I just started with, because I can't see them here. I only see the wall.
Yeah, hang on.
Okay. Because of the technical problems. But we shouldn't worry about technical problems. I was just at the hospital, and you hear things on the overhead like stroke alert cath lab. So none of us are having a stroke in the cardiac cath lab. So a bit of technical problem is okay. So back to the horns. Yeah, so there was a previous, yeah, there. The exponential horns in the orthophonic era, they started out. We've all heard of those. So that one, so then the number two, you could go to the second slide there. Yeah, that's from an HMV 162. In Britain, they were more concerned with the horns. Like that would be the equivalent of, I don't know, a VV11 or something, you know, or a smaller one, or maybe. But they were into the big horns before the orthophonics, or I don't know, they just were in general. So next one. Oh yeah, and this one. So then in the late 20s, early 30s, into the 40s, EMG started making these machines with big paper applique horns. And one like this came up on our auction a year and a half ago, maybe. Does anybody remember that? It had a reserve of $7,500. And if Mike had stayed on the auction for an extra 15 seconds, I probably would have bought it, because that's a good price for that machine, about 4,000 pounds. And it's here. I could have driven to BC and picked it up. But I also thought I'd sort of wanted to make one because I read about people building these horns, and it's sort of more fun to make it anyway. And then if I had a real one, I'd have to worry about it. So, but that's an EMG, maybe a 10B or something like that. Okay, next one. So then I have a number of, that's an expert horn. When the fellow who started EMG sort of lost control of the company, he started Expert Gramophones, and this is them. So next one, I have a number of pictures of EMGs here. That one's in Japan with a 36-inch bell. It's a big one. Continue on. And that was an early one conversion. It might have been a prototype, they say, that he did. So you can, yeah, next one. Well, yeah, and this is an EMG Mark 8, so it just has this long horn. It has a tone arm and things too, but that one. So I like the looks of that. So then, next one here. There were also, because I like front mount machines, and there were also optional front mount horns available from Victor, as long as 54 or 56 inches, and Bettini made a 72-inch horn. And so there's you can see this one's had the extended mount thing and a longer arm, longer traveling arm to accommodate that. Okay, next one. That, I just found that online. I don't know what it's from, but, it's a beaut. Yeah. And next one. This guy here. Yeah, so they were around. It looks like an OpenWorks HM or OpenWorks Victor that he's got it on, just judging by the horn and the reproducer that's sitting over there. Yeah, next one. Yeah, so then in the 30s, late 20s, early 30s, maybe it was, this ball main horn. This guy made the straight exponential horn that traveled. It's sitting on floats. It floats on 2 beds of mercury, liquid mercury. And the whole thing, just the turning of the turntable, the record just moves the whole horn as it plays. So the tracking is always perfect. There's no deviation, perfect tracking. So I like the looks of that horn, but I wasn't about to make tubs of mercury. Okay, next one. And then so recently, a few years ago, somebody built another one, like a Neo ball main horn that uses nearly frictionless bearings to do the same sort of thing. And you can find a lot of, and I mean, most of this stuff I found about on the Talking Machine forum, stuff posted by Graham Rankin and other people. Okay, next one. Yeah, and this is from 1926 or 29. So when I saw that, I was excited. It's 5 feet long with a 24-inch bell. So I sort of thought, well, I could do one of those, and without a bend without having to make a bend, then you don't have to. Well, a bend is harder to make than to make it straight. Okay, next one. Yeah, so then I started researching, and again, most of this is on Talking Machine forum or stuff like that. So this is just, all sorts of stuff about how the logarithmic thing works and things like that. Next one. Yeah, and then there's also, tables there that show, the expansion of the horn works. And the way an exponential horn goes, it doubles every given length. So say if it's half an inch at the opening, then at 1 foot, it'll be 1 inch. At 2 feet, it'll be 2 inches. At 3 feet, it'll be 4. At 4 feet, it'll be 8, and so on. And these numbers here given our radius is not diameter. So that's for a 48-inch horn with a 12-inch radius, so 24-inch diameter. So next one. Yeah, so the next couple of ones you could just go by. So there's also, again, like charts. This is for a big 14-foot long one. But you get the idea that you can see that at the various distances, there's, 0.25 radius, 0.28, 0.32. So from looking at those, I just calculated the rate of expansion per portion of that doubling area and just applied that to other things. So next slide. Yeah, so that's the second one of that. So you can see that's has a radius of 34 inches or 36.46. The smaller number is Percy Wilson's number. So an exponential horn at the very end would have a radius of 36.46 inches. So 73 inches would that be? And or whatever that number would be. And then the Percy Wilson one, it's slightly reduced. So 34 inch, so 64 inch bell on that 14-foot long horn. So I don't know if anybody ever built one. So next slide. So then I just started laying out things on the workshop table just to decide how big I'd wanted to do it. You know, I'd lay it out for see if the diameter doubled every 9 inches or every foot or every whatever. And I finally settled on, you can go to the next slide. You can see there's just a mess of stuff there, a palimpsest of things here and all my numbers and working out. And so I decided on it doubles every 10.5 inches, my horn. And then, so that would have given me a bell of about 30 inches. So you make the horn until it comes out until the angle of the bell is 45 degrees, and that's where you stop. And then you apply Percy Wilson's formula, which where the diameter is 30 inches, you then reduce that to 0.945, I think it is, of that diameter, and then where the angle is 45, you reduce it to 945 and so on. So as you get about halfway, it pretty much follows the exponential horn, but it's slightly smaller at the opening, which is nice. It's easier to deal with, and apparently it gives slightly better sound. And then the opening at the bell is about 42 degrees. Is anybody enjoying this?
Yeah.
It was a good learning experience, and I spent a lot of time drawing and erasing and working this out and things like that. Okay, next one. So then the next thing was to build the form to it. So I cut a circle of the size I wanted, 28 inches, and then these vertical pieces that went in there crisscrossed, and then just started next one. Putting on little quarter sections of plywood that I'd cut at an angle on the bandsaw, and then I could tell by the vertical pieces the angle it was supposed to be. I'd mark it the diameter it was supposed to be, and then I just sort of ground it to size with a flapper disc on an angle grinder. So next one. Yeah, and then one after that. So you can see the progression. And then there, and that's just gradually built up. So next one. And it was relatively easy to get it nice and smooth, but I've done stuff like that before. So that's the horn there. That's actually after I had waxed it with beeswax to try to make the release better. Okay, next one. I think it's a full, there we go. Yeah, so that's the full horn, or the form for the horn in my basement where it's always Christmas. Yeah, so next one. Yeah, and I made it so the two parts came apart just to make it easier to move around and carry. And that cat, that's Hoodoo, is my cat, one of our cats. So, okay, so next one. Well, yeah, so then the next thing to do is to build the horn out of paper. So the paper I used was something called ram board, and it's a 46 mil cardboard, sort of like shoebox thickness. You get it in big rolls, and it's like if you're doing work in your house, you put it down to cover the hardwood floor so it doesn't get stomped on while you're doing other things. And it's just a nice thickness. And the people who make a lot of these exponential horns, they use much thinner paper, and they do 40 layers of very thin paper. But I thought, well, I would try this. So I started out by doing it by calculating. You could do next slide. Yeah, found an online cone calculator. So I'd calculate segments of the cone and do them, each one had to be different. And then for the second layer, I did that again, but I overlapped them halfway. So you can continue there. Yeah, and then I just made a thing so I could cut the arcs that I wanted out of the same sort, you know, out of that paper. Okay, next one. Yeah, and then I just started building up. So you can see part way up, there's 2 layers on that one, and then it just goes up. So I'd glue it into place, or I'd tack it into place, then glue the second layer on, just with yellow carpenter's glue or weld bond. And then I found I had to put parchment paper underneath because just the wax, the form wasn't enough. And I had to, once it was done, you can go to the next one. Yeah, once it was done, I did struggle a little to get it off, you know, which took me 20 minutes to get it off. So that's okay. So next one there. And then, so that's more or less two layers. And then for the third layer, I did this. Now, when I do it, the next one, I'm going to do this for the first layer. It's just easier, and yeah, it seems to work. And then I can just and then I might do a circular one for the next one, then this again for the third layer, or just overlap these. So it's a bit of farting around, but it's like, you know, I listen to podcasts while I'm doing it, and or listen to music or something, and it's nice. Next one. Yeah, so there's the horn on my dining room table, off the form and done. And it's pretty rigid. You know, in the end, it's about maybe 3/16 of an inch, but it's quite rigid. And I was inspired too by, you know, you get those cardboard tubes for pouring pilings if you're putting a deck in or something, for pouring concrete in. They're very thin, maybe 1/8 of an inch, and they're rigid, you know. So it's nice. It's nice. It worked out well for strength wise for that. Okay, continue. Oh yeah, and there's just a few of it here. I just had to add, like, it's a big thing, and that's a fairly large sofa, so it's sitting there, lying there like the odalisque. Next one. Yeah, and there's you get to some idea of the wall thing. It maybe looks a little thinner than it is, but it's quite rigid and it's nice. And for horn, for cardboard or paper applique or cardboard for horns is actually good, because apparently it's quite acoustically inert. You know, it's not going to resonate like maybe a tin one or a brass one would or something. Next one. Oh yeah, so there it is in my shop. I had to paint it. I was originally going to just try to like dye it a nice dark color, like nice dark wooden color or something. But when I put whatever dye I put on, some aniline dye, it made it kind of really awful green. I don't know what. So then I thought, well, I'm just going to have to paint it. So I did it black, and it's not too bad. Oh yeah, and I'm using you can continue for the next. I'm using yeah, that's a Columbia elbow, and then I just built a tone arm thing and that, and then okay, next one. Yeah, so I was worried about, you know, because with the exponential horn, you want it to be like the same size and that. So I didn't want this elbow would have been bigger and then got smaller again at the horn. So I made out of closed cell foam a little sleeve that fit in. So it's 5/8 of an inch diameter all the way around until it gets to the horn. So yeah, next one. Yeah, so it fits in there, and then the horn fits right against that, and theoretically it's one diameter all the way, and with no big jumps. Next one. Oh yeah, there. And then there's, you know, I put rubber liners in the where it meets the reproducer and where it meets the horn as well. So there we go. Next one. Oh yeah, and then for mount, I originally thought I could use just a music stand, but that was far too light. So I got this. It's a speaker stand from the music supply store, and I just had to turn a new piece for the top. You can make that bigger, yeah. And then for a pivot, I cut apart a bicycle wheel bearing. So there's roller bearings in there, or not rollers, ball bearings. And then the two mounts for the bit that holds the fork that holds the horn and the bit that clamps onto the traveling arm. Those are just brake perches from a bicycle that I modified. So next one. Yeah, and that's pretty well it. Yeah, so that's the setup. If you go to my YouTube channel and hear the music that I play, that's the setup I use usually. So it's just, I just have a VV6 there that I use for the machine, and then just set it on there. And the tracking is really, really, really good because there's about a 43.5 inch distance from the pivot to the needle point. And so over the 2 inches or 3 inches of a record groove, like it goes through almost no degree of arc, right? It's maybe a half a degree off perfect from start to finish. It's very nice tracking. Also, when I sent a video link to Andy Briggs in Britain, the guy who sells the Burmese color needles, he said to me, "Oh, that's very nice, but it might benefit from a better," I was just using an exhibition reproducer, "it might benefit from a Meltrope or something." And he had one to sell. So I bought that right away. So it arrived in like a week, and it made a huge difference. So if you go to my YouTube channel, Prairie Gramophone, by the way, and we're going to play one tune afterwards, it really, really made a great difference. It made me, I'd heard about how great Meltropes were, but now I'm a believer. Like, they're really wonderful. And I use this particular one, it's a 3, but it only has a small round hole, so I can't use bamboo needles. But he also supplied me with, I bought 50 superfine Burmese color needles. So they work in the thing, and it's great. And I found too, it could be a product of the Meltrope because it's more, I don't know, more forgiving or flexible. I can play records that are a bit old and scratchy that with my exhibition reproducer, I couldn't play it right through with a thorn needle, but they'll go through easily on the Meltrope. So it could just be because it's more compliant and it's not as hard on the needle tip. And oh yeah, and I'm using about 85 to 100 gram tone arm, or weight at the needle tip, which is lighter than most gramophones have, but I find it's fine. It makes the needles last longer, the fibers to get through a whole record without damage. And like that. And I might, since I'm probably going to keep this now, I'll work out a better system for mounting where the traveling arm mounts to the pivot, something that I can easily just, use a screw to adjust it back and forth for length. So that's pretty well it, if anybody has any questions.
Tom.
Yeah.
I did, John here. I did a study with a audio spectrum analyzer of various types of horns, commercial and some home built, and found that your size here with the, is it the 30-inch diameter?
This is 28 inch. Yeah. 5 feet long, 28 inch. Yeah.
Spectrum analyzer pretty much had that flat from 200 hertz to 4,000. So have you ever had the chance to put a spectrum analyzer on your horn? It'd be interesting.
Well, yeah, but my wife and I, before COVID, my wife and I used to go to Edmonton every, once or twice a year. Just, we stay at the university and just go to different restaurants and that. But I thought, if we're going to do that this summer, I'm bringing this horn to your shop, and I'd love to do that.
That'd be great. I'd like to cooperate with you on that. Yeah, that would be super. Enjoyed that presentation.
Okay, thanks. Yeah.
Anyone else online with a question?
I have one, if you don't mind.
Please go ahead.
You can hear me there, okay? A couple of things. Percy Wilson had a different rate of exponential cross-section than the other study that was done. Has there ever been sort of a definitive conclusion as to what the appropriate number is? Because you can have your horn doubling in diameter or area, whichever way you're measuring it. You can double it every foot, or you can double it every 10 inches, or double it every 8 inches. They're all exponential growth, but is there an optimum value of that?
I don't know. Well, of course, I'm no expert either, but I just, yeah, I think longer, you'd think longer is better. The biggest EMGs and experts are perhaps 9-foot horns, 8 or 9-foot horns, and with slightly bigger bells. But yeah, I think that.
Hello, Tom?
We lost our connection there. Other people are moving, so I guess it's Tom then.
Uh-oh. Can you hear me?
Yes,
Yeah,
we can hear
we're
you
back.
now.
We missed the last minute.
The picture's still frozen though.
Well.
Oh, did he just leave?
Tom, are you there?
Yeah, I'm here.
Oh,
okay,
there you are.
great.
Okay,
Great.
well, good.
So you-
Okay, so we're back.
Sorry, can you repeat the last minute or so?
Oh, okay. Yeah, the different horn lengths. Yeah, I suppose in general, I think people think like longer is better. Size matters. But I think if you, because I'd read again, and I'm not as the expert that Don is, but if you want to sort of figure out what the cutoff is for your horn, it's 9 times the wavelength of the cutoff will be 9 times the distance of the doubling. So if it doubles every foot, then your cutoff will be a wavelength that's 9 feet long, which would correspond with maybe 100 hertz or whatever that is. So yeah, so stuff like that. But I'd also heard about Tractrix horns, and people say, oh, how they're, because they're much like an exponential, but they flare bigger. You get to a bigger end quicker. And people say, oh, those are better and they're less directional and this and that. But I mean, I think in general, just any horn, a bigger, nice, smooth horn works good. But really, this horn, I'm so glad I built it because it really sounds amazing. And some of on my website, there's tunes that I've recorded on just a regular gramophone, and then I put them on again with this. Like it's somebody said, are you going to do a comparison? And I said, well, there is no comparison really. Like it's really nice. I totally recommend, some just building on. If somebody has a workshop, just go ahead and do it. It's just because it cost me almost nothing. I mean, the cardboard was virtually free. I had a bunch of it. It's like $60 for hundreds and hundreds of feet, and I probably used an 8-foot section. The biggest expense was speaker stand to hold it on, and I could always sell that again. Yeah. So.
And Tom, I had a question in that I've heard of exponential horns in orthophonic machines from the late 20s, and they have the folded horn.
Oh,
is that much different than this? Is it the same principle?
Yeah, like the EMGs where they move around more and curve.
Yeah,
that, or do you, yeah,
sort of like
it's the same principle. Yeah,
the same principle.
Yeah, it is. Yeah, but they try to fit it into a cabinet because I mean, to be honest, you saw the picture of the horn. That's a big thing. Like I have to say, okay, I'm going to play records now, and then set everything up and do that, and then put it away. But of course, if you had the cabinet mounted EMG type horn, it would just sit in the corner of your room all the time. You wouldn't have to be.
Well, actually, you've led into my next question, and that is, what did your wife think of having that big horn on the sofa there? No problems?
Oh, that was fine. Yeah. Yeah, it wasn't there for long.
You know what's good for you, right?
Yeah.
Tom, could I ask a follow-up question?
Sure.
I'm wondering what type of Meltrope reproducer that was. If this helps, that's a Meltrope 2.
Yeah, mine's a 3.
Yeah, I just ordered one this. I have no idea what it's going to sound like, but it'll have to be.
Well, I got mine from Andy, so he knows what he's doing, and it sounds fabulous. Like it's really, and people say they're one of the very best, and mine must be tuned nicely and set up. And he put in there's these red rubber gaskets you can get. He gets, I think those are from Chunny Bamra in Australia, and he just got a new one of those. So that was an extra 10 quid, but I won't say what I paid for it, but it was cheap compared to what you usually see them online for. And he said later, he said, I was wondering if I should sell it because it's so nice. But I told him it's gone to a good home. I'm really glad I got it. Like no, but now that's something I have to worry about. I think, well, what if something happened to it? I'd have to find another one. So, yeah.
Great. Okay. So, Angelo, you've got a question. So you've got to speak loud so they can hear you.
I just wanted to ask, how many hours did you spend making the mold and the supply?
How many hours did you spend making the mold?
It's hard to say, because sometimes I'd go downstairs and work for 3 hours and then come back. I mean, it'd be a long time, I guess, a fair amount of time. Although once I got going with the cutting the wood and gluing it, I'd put glue on it and then hit it with a brad nailer to hold it all solid. It sort of moved along fairly quickly, but because it was my first one, a lot of stuff I had to think about how I was going to do it, like the transition to the shorter one and figuring out the cones and all that stuff, that if I was to do another one, I could build, because I was thinking of building another horn, like, with an 8 or 9 foot one that mounts on a machine and with maybe a 33-inch bell, something like that, So I'll have to build another whole form. But now that I've done that, that'll be much easier. I'll just start cutting plywood and go at it. So, but yeah, so I'm sorry, I can't really tell you, but it'd be a fair amount of time. But again, like, what else would I have been doing? Watching YouTube? It was 30 below, so if I'm going to be in the basement anyway, it's and listening to music or podcasts or something, then yeah, it's all good.
One more quick comment. I have an expert junior like you had in one of your earlier photographs.
Yeah.
And 40 or 50 years ago, I was corresponding with a big English collector about this type of machine, and he'd seen probably one of the XB horns with a very wide mouth on it was too big to go through a doorway. So the owner had lopped the end of the bell off so that it could be fit inside the house. And he said that what they found inside of the horn, once they'd done that, were old telephone books, because it was a papier mâché process of building those up.
Yeah, I remember reading about that. I might have even seen pictures of that particular horn, or bad stuff happens to them. But yeah, did you say you owned an Expert Junior?
Yeah, I've got one here. Yeah.
Oh, well, you're a lucky man. What kind of reproducer do you have for it?
It's an Expert 4-spring reproducer on it, and hands down, it outperforms everything else that I've got.
Well, so the sound. The sound that horn can produce then with a good reproducer. Yeah.
It is wonderful.
Man. Yeah. Okay.
Excellent. Okay. Any other questions? Well,
Great.
Video? You had a video.
Oh, yeah. There's a video.
Did you want to play the video?
Oh yeah, do that, please. Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah. Oh, for sure. And then you'll get to hear the horn. This record was recorded in 1916. There we go. Yeah, there we go.
Very
Yeah, there was
great.
some sort of vibration or buzzing there that must be something to do with your setup, but that's not on that doesn't come out of the speaker, out of the horn. Yeah, so if anybody wants, and I'm not trying to garner views or anything, my YouTube channel is Prairie Gramophone. So just go to that and then hit videos, and then about the last dozen or so that are on there are all recorded with a new Maltrope. And there's some really nice stuff on there, the Johnny Marvin stuff, and it's not all just that. Oh yeah, another thing, that record I'd started to say, that was recorded in 1916 acoustically. So whoever the recording engineer was to arrange the guys around that single horn that they played into, he did a fabulous job. Like there's, they really recorded that. I was just impressed by that, getting all those bass notes into that record, Anyway, that's it.
Tom,
Hope you all
I noticed that there's basically no surface noise, or extremely minimal. Is that
Yeah,
part of
well, yeah, and that's a case of a record that with my exhibition reproducer, it won't play right through that record with a thorn needle. I had to use a steel needle. So the first time I uploaded that with some pictures of the horn being built, the sound is just sort of, harsher and a bit.
Oops.
Like you.
Tom, we lost you again.
With that needle, but with this new
Okay.
Maltrope, oh, bucker. Now,
Tom,
are we
you're-
back? Yeah, with the new Maltrope, a number of.
Sorry, Tom, can you repeat the last minute because you froze again?
Oh, okay. I was going to say that that's a record that it's not in the greatest condition, and I used to have to play it with a steel needle on my exhibition, but now with the Maltrope 3, I can use the thorn needle, and it makes it all the way through easily, and that does cut down on the surface noise. But that record isn't particularly that great, and I do post some stuff on my site, like if I have a really nice grand prize record from 1909 or something, if it's in good shape, I'll post that just because it sounds so good, and not necessarily that people might be interested in any of that stuff. But yeah, my website has, or my YouTube channel, I don't know if you got that part or if I was
Go
muted
ahead.
then. Yeah, Prairie Gramophone, and then just click on videos, and then you might find something interesting there. Yeah.
Awesome.
Tom, it might be interesting. I was just doing some reading a day or two ago, and it seems to me, if I read it correctly, that the Maltrope 3 was designed to be used with steel needles. Just a thought. In fact, the later ones had circular openings, and I don't think that was for thorn. I think that was because of the steel.
Yeah, mine is a circular one. Yeah, so Andy supplied me with a whole bunch of superfine BCNs, Burmese color needles. Yeah, yeah, it works fine with these. Yeah. Yeah, and I don't know, like there's people, they talk about this is done for that or that, but I mean, it's a diaphragm and a pivot, and like there's not that much difference. Like if you had one that was made for bamboo needles and one that was made for steel needles, like how different would they be? Like I can't see. Would you use a different thickness of aluminum for the diaphragm, or like come on, it's I just go by the result, and the result is fine. I don't even know if I have used a steel needle in the Maltrope yet. The thorns just work so good.
Well, I'm guessing that maybe the thickness of the diaphragm is a factor in that. I was just reading something in one of the groups about, oh gosh, I'm not sure which company, it could have been a Columbia, produced a sapphire stylus to be used with the indestructible cylinders that was sort of a chisel shape. And I think it was Wyatt Marcus was saying that was 2 layers of, was it mica or some other materials, only about something like 1.5 thousandths of an inch thick each layer. So it was a much more flexible diaphragm for that particular stylus.
Yeah, well, and even with say mica diaphragms, I remember we're going off piste here, but somebody was saying that they put their micrometer on various microdiaphragms, and they're not all the same thickness, you know. So you could try a thick one or a thin one, and get that. Yeah.
Okay, Tom. So we're going to wrap it up now. Thank you very much for your presentation. I found it fascinating.
Enjoyed that. Enjoyed that a lot.
And Tom, you've got so many great diagrams and calculations and things like that. Is there any possible way in the future you could have perhaps turn it into an article that we could put in the newsletter?
Yeah, I suppose I could. I mean, I'll think about.
Then you could put a link for your videos too.
I could send some links, but you know, a lot of that stuff is if you just have to start. If you want to build a machine, you know, build a horn, just start digging and start with a talking machine forum and this and that and archives.org, and it's all there. I mean, I just have to find it and that. So, okay.
So I'll take that as a yes, maybe.
Maybe.
Please.
I am.
And anyway, I don't think we've ever had this topic addressed before at any other CAPS meeting, and that's why I thought it would be good too, as some kind of follow-up in the newsletter, even if it's just something short. But I could chat with you about that. But I just wanted to thank you very much for coming forward today and showing us what you did. It's just amazing the talent you've got.
Well, it was fun. I'm glad the technical thing got ironed out.
Yeah.
Okay.
Good.
So, thank you, Tom. And at this point, we're going to take a break. But before we do, for people in the room, Don's going to make an announcement. Take it away, Don.
2-for-1 tickets.
Not by one.
Okay, that's great.
Yeah, go very far.
Okay, so that's something for in the room here. And for those of you on Zoom, we're going to mute the microphone this time.
I'm also going to show the.
And
stuff.
Mark's going to go around
Yeah, I'll
with
go
your
around.
cell phone,
Yeah.
and he's going to explain what's on the table. That'll be coming up in the auction, so you'll get a bit of a close-up preview of it, have a better idea of what's available. Okay, so we'll probably be about 15 or 20 minutes or so, and then we'll be back online.